Among the many reasons the mana games are held at Elitist Manor, one of them is to see how human nature plays out under certain conditions. Game 6B focuses on one thing in particular: how people perceive the truth, and how people will react with the truth that is revealed to them. Will someone reject the truth and only accept lies? Or will they keep chasing the truth, refusing to accept anything else? And what happens if a medicine affects their ability to consume truth, or even changes how they see it? That's the heart of Game 6B. It's often called the Pinocchio game, based on Martha's third letter, where participants are told to flip truth and lies saying the opposite of what's real. The game involves 4 main players: Luchino Diruse, Evelyn Student, Demi Bourbon, and Eli Clark. Michiko appears in the story too, but at its core, the game only centers on those 4. Each participant in Game 6B has their own unique link to truth and lies. One was seeking the truth about life and creation. Another clings to the lies she's told herself, believing them to be reality. One is searching for the real truth about her brother's whereabouts, and the last is trying to alter the truth that's been predestined upon him. Game 6B is one of the rare mana games where we actually know the full list of participants, though the ending is still too vague to pin down for certain. Still, today we're diving into that story: what the game was really about, who took part, when and where it happened, and how it basically played out. Just like in my previous lore analysis, I've dug as deep as I could, discussing with lore enthusiasts, looking at different perspectives, and cross-referencing everything. But at the end of the day, what I'm presenting here is still a theory. Even if it's backed by character letters and in-game files, it shouldn't be taken as canon, more like a plausible explanation. For this analysis, I pulled information from the wiki, Reddit, and also had some great discussions with the amazing lore community in the official IDV Discord server. Their insights and support mean a lot, and I'm grateful for their help. Evelyn Student, a member of the You-Know-Who organization I talked about in a previous video, comes to the manor disguised as a certain soldier named Martha Behamfil. If you haven't watched that video yet, I really recommend checking it out first, because it explains the organization in more depth. But here's the short version. The You-Know-Who is a codename for a secret group led by Wilhelm Lamb. They focus on medical research, and also train a group of women nicknamed the Pharaoh Ladies, who are highly skilled in disguise. Evelyn Mora was the instructor for the Pharaoh Ladies, and under her there were several students. One of them was so talented that people said she even surpassed Evelyn herself. Evelyn had planned to pass the torch to this student, since her own time in the organization was limited to 10 years. But in her 9th year, things went sideways. This remarkable student went rogue. She escaped the organization and even tried to destroy it once, though she ultimately failed. Because of this betrayal, Wilhelm Lamb ordered Evelyn to deal with her runaway student as the final task before she could leave the organization, for good. The runaway fled to England and sought protection from Elitist Manor. The man's owner offered her a new identity, Martha Behamfil, a wannabe pilot who never made it to the skies. There's no official record of where this student originally came from, but since Evelyn Mora was an orphan, and Alice was an orphan too, some theories suggest that this runaway might have also been recruited from an orphanage, just like Alice. Either way, taking on the persona of Martha Behamfil, she entered the second Manor Game 6, as planned by the manor owner. Another participant in the second Game 6 is Demi Bourbon, the younger stepsister of the chemist Sam Bourbon. Her life was far from easy. Born in a slum somewhere in America, Demi was considered frail from the start and weren't expected to survive long. She also had a white patch on her head and hair, which later confirmed to be vitiligo. Some theories claim her mother was either abusive or gravely ill, and that Sam killed her to protect Demi. Though, to be honest, I haven't found any reliable source for that. Save aside the speculation. Until there's concrete proof, I'm not going to present it as fact. Maybe we'll know more once her 6th letter is released. What we do know is that Demi, born weak and living with vitiligo, grew up in poverty alongside her mother and stepbrother Sam. Eventually, their mother was found dead in the slums, and when police arrived, neither Demi nor Sam could be found. It's said they fled to Europe, with Demi barely surviving the journey. By the time they arrived in a small European city hinting to be somewhere in England, Demi was 16 years old, which I guess was around 1894. They tried to make a living by opening a bar. At first, business was slow, but with Sam's skill in chemistry, he experimented with 3 different reagents and eventually created a drink called Dovlin. It became wildly popular, and the siblings enjoyed a period of comfort and success. Oddly, Sam never allowed Demi to drink Dovlin. A theory suggests that the drink contained a special reagent dangerous to health. This same drink then caught the attention of the Elitist Manor's owner, who suspected it might contain ingredients useful for making their experimental medicine. According to the barmaid's video trailer, Sam was invited to work at the manor. He never came back. Without Sam, and without knowing Dovlin's recipe, Demi struggled to keep the bar running. Since Dovlin was their signature drink, losing it meant losing customers, and the bar's popularity slowly faded. Then, on her 20th birthday, Demi received a mysterious letter from Olitus Manor. Inside was the recipe for a drink, which, when she made it, turned out to be Dovlin. We don't know exactly what happened in the 2 years between receiving that letter and entering Game 6B when she was 22. Personally, I think she restarted her bar, serving Dovlin again, and this time, she actually drank it herself. That could explain her constant tipsiness mentioned in her 5th letter. It could also explain her unusually high drug resistance. While some of it is genetic, her experiment file mentions that repeated exposure to drugs reduces their effect. If Dovlin contains such substances, drinking it regularly could have made her more resistant over time. 2 years after that mysterious letter arrived, Demi decided to go to Elitus Manor, hoping to learn what happened to her brother. Since the recipe came from the manor, and Dovlin was her brother's creation, she believed the manor must hold some clue about his fate. Eli Clark was born into the Clark family, a modest but respectable business family in Lancashire, England. The Clarks weren't wealthy, but they lived comfortably, until one disastrous investment wiped out their finances. The loss was so severe that young Eli had to leave school and move with his mother to Silverdale. No one saw his father again after that. Some whispered that he had abandoned them to escape his debts. Others claimed he had drowned himself in the river. Eli and his mother never confirmed either story. Eli grew up spending most of his time alone in the oak forest near their home. One autumn, he came across an injured owl lying under an oak tree, its wings broken, and its life hanging by a thread. Out of pity, Eli took the bird to a local pharmacy, bought medicine, and cared for it until it could fly again. But when he tried to set it free, the owl refused to leave, choosing instead to perch on his shoulder. That was the start of their unusual companionship. Eli soon discovered that his owl wasn't just any ordinary bird. It carried an ancient soul, with the power to glimpse the future. The owl agreed to share this gift with Eli on one condition. He must never record what he saw in any physical form. From that day on, Eli became a prophet of sorts, able to foresee events before they happened. He used this ability to help others. One man, a businessman named Mr. Hutton, told how Eli changed his life through a coal trade that made him wealthy. Hutton recalled meeting Eli at a remote harbour in Lancashire and inviting him to lunch to discuss business. During their meal, Eli kept glancing out the window. On the third glance, he spotted an elderly beggar woman sitting in the cold across the street. Eli explained that her late husband once extended kindness to him and his mother. Eli brought the woman inside, and Hutton, touched by the gesture, bought her a meal. She ate quietly, and when she finished, she passed away peacefully in the warm cafe. For Hutton, it was bittersweet. He was glad she died with a smile after her final meal. But for Eli, the moment carried a heavier truth. No matter how clearly he could see the future, he could never prevent fate. If it was time for someone to die, then one way or another, death would come. Sometime later, Eli met Gertrude, the daughter of a businessman. They soon fell in love and became engaged, with Eli promising her happiness and prosperity. Using his foresight, he warned her about an upcoming wheat market event that would have ruined her father's business, successfully preventing it. Grateful, Gertrude wrote Eli a letter detailing the incident. But by doing this, she unknowingly broke the owl's rule. Because the prophecy was now written down in a tangible form, Eli lost his ability to foresee the future. And not only that, the divine being behind the owl punished him for the breach. Eli confessed everything to Gertrude. She remarked that his story reminded her of the legend of Lou and Blodued. After becoming a bird, Lou turned back into a man and cursed his wife Blodued, transforming her into an owl, shunned by all other birds forever. Gertrude told Eli there must be a way to restore his gift. Then, Eli received another vision, one that led him to Elitis Manor, where a tragedy was destined to occur. This vision, combined with his guilt for breaking the oath and his promise to Gertrude to bring her happiness, drew him there. He wasn't invited by the manor's owner. It was the vision itself, perhaps sent by the divine being, that guided him to the manor's doors. Lucino, a firm believer in science, devoted his life to uncovering the origins of humankind. As a young professor specializing in herpetology, or the study of reptiles, he became deeply fascinated by the idea that studying reptiles could unlock the mysteries of human evolution. His research often focused on reptilian venoms and their effects on living organisms. Lucino frequently conducted experiments on laboratory rats and, at times, on humans, using himself as the subject. During this period, another biology professor, Duquesne Thompson, was reassigned to the same laboratory where Lucino worked. Resentful about his transfer, Thompson proposed a collaboration with Lucino to work together. Although Lucino found this invitation suspicious, his passion for discovering new reptile species outweighed his concerns. Later on, Thompson issued a public request and offered rewards for unusual or exotic scaled animals, which attracted numerous rare specimens. While Lucino suspected Thompson's motives might be more aligned with exhibition than scientific research, he chose to overlook this in favor of the opportunity to study the new specimens. Among the contributors was Darren Bergand, a university janitor responsible for cleaning the laboratories of both Thompson and Lucino, even though he disliked reptiles, and found that maintaining Lucino's lab especially unpleasant. Outside of work, he also cared for his ailing mother. One day, Darren presented a highly unusual specimen, a snake that had grown 4 legs. According to Darren, this creature repeatedly attempted to climb into his mother's window, and he referred to it as a demon-possessed snake. There exists a theory suggesting the snake was actually Darren's cursed brother, though this detail falls outside the scope of our discussion on Lucino, so we will not focus on that. When Thompson saw the specimen, his reaction was peculiar, but he nonetheless passed it on to Lucino for study. As per his usual method, Lucino first tested the venom on a laboratory rat, which displayed no unusual symptoms. Intrigued, he decided to test the venom on himself. The bite caused the wound to dry and roughen without pain. Over time, Lucino noticed enhanced stamina, heightened sensitivity to smell, and the fading of old scars. Unbeknownst to, or perhaps knowingly ignored by Lucino, his body began to transform into a reptilian form. Rather than fear, he felt exhilaration, believing he had discovered the ultimate key to human evolution. His design notes later revealed that, in pursuit of further understanding, he accepted an invitation to the manor, bringing a sample of the venom with him. In Game 6B, Michiko only shows up briefly, just as a voice Eli hears, so I won't go too deep into her story here. But I'll give you a quick rundown, since her past might still have an impact on Eli during the game. Michiko was a Japanese woman from Yoshiwara, the red light district of Edo, which is the present-day Tokyo. She worked as a geisha, which, if you're not familiar, are highly trained female entertainers in Japan. They perform traditional arts like dance, music, and singing, and they're also skilled in conversation and hosting events. One day, at a banquet, Michiko met a foreign army officer named Miles Donald. They fell in love and eventually got married. Since geishas weren't allowed to marry, Michiko left her job and followed Miles to his hometown, which is hinted to be somewhere in England. They were so happy together that they kept their boat ticket to England as a keepsake. Unfortunately, Miles's family didn't approve of the marriage, especially his father, who was firmly against the idea of Miles marrying someone like her. But Miles didn't care. He loved Michiko deeply and never wavered. Things took a dark turn when Miles was ordered to go on a 6-month business trip to India. Worried about how Michiko would handle living in India, he decided to leave her at their home. This turned out to be the start of a nightmare. Miles' family, especially his father, began to target her. To make matters worse, Michiko was pregnant, and her father-in-law worked with her doctor to hide the pregnancy from the public. A week before Miles was supposed to come back, Michiko vanished in the middle of the night. Her deduction quests and birthday letters reveal the truth. Miles' father murdered her and dumped her body at Lakeside Village, with help from a couple named Eugene and Marjorie Hayward. Marjorie was the aunt of Natasha Hayward, who would later become known as Margaretha Zell. After that, Miles's father sent him a telegram claiming Michiko had run away with a servant, stolen family property, and disappeared. Miles didn't believe a word of it. He searched for her every day, never learning the real story. The key takeaway for Game 6B is this. Michiko was murdered, and her body was thrown away into the lake at Lakeside Village. In short, 6B already has its participants and reaches its conclusion, but the problem is, like most Identity V writings, it contains cryptic details. These leave many things open for interpretation or require more revelations before the full story can be understood. That's why, even though I have a general idea of what happened in 6B, I still don't have a completely clear picture. I even tried talking to people who are experts on 6B, but in the end, I only learned the general events. So, I need to make it clear that what I'm going to present here should not be taken as canon. This is a theory, one that is supported by in-game files, fan discussions, and a mix of logical and imaginative interpretation. If I had to guess, the events of 6B took place in April 1900 or 1901. I base this on the fact that Game 4 happened in July 1899, and that in April of the following year, Martha Behamfil went missing. Around the same time, Evelyn's student was seen disguising herself as Martha in Liverpool. This suggests that 6B, which clearly takes place after Game 4, likely happened in April of the following year. The location for 6B is Lakeside Village, which many believe is somewhere in Scotland, not far from Oletus Manor. According to Eli's experiment file, Lakeside Village is the perfect place for experiments that involve mysticism. The mysticism in 6B is Eli's own ability, his foresight. The Manor wanted to study this ability in detail through the experiment. To do this, they created an experiment based on truth and lies. My guess is that Eli's visions are things he truly believes his truth. So, the game likely involved presenting him with a mix of truths and lies to see how his foresight worked. The other participants were also a good fit for the experiment. Lucino has a hidden truth and seeks the truth about the creation of life. Demi is searching for the truth about her brother, but often hides in lies when she drinks. And Martha can blend truth and lies seamlessly, even believing her own lies as truth. I'm not sure exactly how long Game 6B lasted. Based on the letters, it went on for at least 3 days. Eli, Lucino, and Demi arrived on the same day, and Martha joined the next day. Game 6B began even before the first Game 6 had finished, starting with the unexpected arrival of Eli Clark. He came to the manor uninvited, claiming that his divine being had guided him there, and that he had foreseen a tragedy involving everyone, present, himself included. The manor staff were both surprised and intrigued. They might have wondered if he was simply rambling nonsense, but at the same time, they were unsettled by how much he seemed to know about the manor's games. Instead of sending him away, they decided to let him participate in what became the second Game 6. Around this time, Lucino had just emerged as the sole survivor of the first Game 6. He was scheduled to take part in another round with new participants, and pairing him with someone like Eli seemed ideal. Lucino had always believed that science could explain everything, so being teamed with someone who claimed to see the future might challenge his beliefs. The experiment could also reveal whether his curiosity about Eli's abilities would affect the results. Originally, the plan for Game 6B may have been different. We don't know exactly who was supposed to participate with Luchino at first, but things changed because of the third participant, Demi Bourbon. Demi's case is unusual. Her experiment file notes that she arrived too early for the scheduled game. Whether that means she was meant for a later round or something else is unclear. When the manor tried to drug her as part of the standard preparation, she reacted differently. She had a natural resistance to the drug, possibly due to her blood condition, and she was often tipsy from drinking Darvlin. The manor saw her as a valuable subject, but there was a problem. If she stayed too long, the drug's effects could wear off, just as had happened in previous experiments, where repeated exposure made subjects less stable. This left the staff in a difficult position. On one hand, she was too unique to let go. On the other, delaying her game might ruin the experiment. The solution was to start the game immediately. They used whatever remaining medical supplies they had from earlier experiments and brought in Lucino from the first Game 6 to join her. That made 3 participants on the first day: Eli, Lucino, and Demi. According to Lucino's second letter, the 3 met in the dining hall. Eli described Demi as lively, while Lucino was kind, but kept to himself. In a diary, Eli wrote his experience, as well as his vision, a tragedy involving all of them, and his own death. Strangely, he did not see Lucino in the vision. This is a detail I can't explain, so I'll leave that mystery to the experts or to future revelations. Eli also foresaw another participant arriving the next day, a woman named Behamfil. Martha showed up right on schedule the next day. There's a strong theory that she was brought into the game specifically to lure in 2 other test subjects, Miles and Evelyn, but that's likely outside the scope of this discussion, so I'll leave that for another time. Eli's foresight ability is treated as something mystical, and earlier experiments suggest that when an experiment involves a mystical element, the best location to trigger it is Lakeside Village. Why that is, I can't say for sure. The files hint at some connection between the village and unknown beings, maybe supernatural, maybe extraterrestrial, but nothing is explained in detail. Because of this, the manor decided to test Eli's ability there, most likely on the second day of the experiment. That night, they had all the participants play a Pinocchio game. The rules were, reveal a truth about yourself, let the others decide if it's true or a lie, and most importantly, you have to speak under your real identity. Eli introduced himself and shared his vision of the future, even warning the group that a terrible tragedy was coming, one caused by a liar among them. Since Eli's experiment, File noted that he often refused to accept fate and actively tried to alter predicted outcomes. It's clear this warning was another one of his attempts to change destiny. By exposing the liar beforehand, he hoped to prevent the disaster he saw in his visions. At least Lucino seemed to believe him, and given how things turned out later, it's possible the rest believed him too. That part isn't clear in the files, so I can only assume they took him seriously. Nothing is said about what Demi or Lucino shared during the game, but Martha confidently told everyone her identity, which wasn't actually her real one, and everyone still believed her. Later that same night, after the Pinocchio game, the manor staff reprimanded Martha for not using her true identity and told her to reintroduce herself truthfully the next day. They also gave special instructions to Lucino, Martha, and Demi, though among them, only Demi actually followed through. As for these instructions, the files never explain what they were. My guess is they were meant to directly influence Eli's foresight. Maybe the manor wanted to see what would happen if they changed something in his vision, like removing an obstacle, shifting an event, or letting things unfold without interference. Imagine foreseeing yourself about to be hit by a truck, and then being told not to move, so the prediction comes true exactly as seen. On the third day, following the manor's orders, Martha reintroduced herself using her real identity. In her experiment file, it's noted that she did this, nervously, almost flustered. Because of this, the others saw her reintroduction as suspicious, thinking she was lying, even though she was actually telling the truth. Things went downhill when Lucino suggested that Martha might be the liar from Eli's foresight. The two ended up in an argument. Martha tried to explain herself again, but Lucino didn't believe her at all. From here, things get pretty vague. The wording in 6B is cryptic, so what I'm going to explain next is mostly guesswork, based on discussions with other fans and people who have studied 6B. Please take this with a grain of salt. Based on my understanding, there are at least 2 possible outcomes based on whatever theories available in overall 6B, so let's dive into both of them. The first theory says the one who got punished was Lucino. In this version of events, something happened between him and Martha, maybe an argument that went too far, and the manor decided to punish him. The idea is that Lucino tried to harm Martha, which is why he was chosen for the punishment. If that's true, then it's possible that during or right after the punishment, Lucino gave in to his reptilian side and attacked Martha. That could have been what started the tragedy between them. This hit Demi hard. So hard that she tried to block it out by drinking Dovlin. But that wasn't the end of it. While drunk, Demi apparently lost control of herself. According to her 4th letter, this led to another disaster. Around this time, Eli decided he was done with the manor and wanted to escape, until he heard something strange. A faint, chilling moan from a woman. It stopped him in his tracks. Many players believe this moan, translated from the original Chinese as a dying voice, belonged to Michiko. Some think this could have happened because the match location was Lakeside Village, and Michiko was thrown into the lake. That location is also speculated to awaken mystical presences, which only adds to the mystery. From there, Eli gave up on escaping. All his visions, no matter how much he tried to change them, still came true. Just like the time he saw an old woman's death in a vision, tried to help her, even took her to a warm cafe. Yet the ending didn't change. In his mind, tragedy was inevitable, and his own death in the manor was unavoidable. Knowing this, Eli wrote a final letter to his fiancée Gertrude. Not long after, he died. How exactly? No one knows. As for Demi, when she sobered up, she realized something terrible had happened. But instead of taking responsibility, she claimed she was too drunk to remember. Personally, I think whatever she did might have led to Eli's death, but she couldn't, or wouldn't explain it. Later, after yet another tragedy, Demi may have refused to believe it was her fault and instead accused Martha. If that's true, it could explain their tense relationship, Martha scheming against Demi, Demi framing Martha. But again, there's nothing official to confirm it. When it comes to the ending, we don't have solid details. What seems most likely is that Eli didn't survive, because he couldn't change the future. Now, about Lucino, he admitted that he always believed knowledge could explain anything, which is a common belief among scientists. But meeting Eli and witnessing his foresight changed that. Eli showed him a future that couldn't be altered, no matter what anyone did. It made Lucino realize that science has limits. Some things, like Eli's prophecies, can't be measured, studied, or changed. If Eli's visions always ended the same way, maybe free will really is an illusion. By then, his transformation was almost complete. In his diary, Lucino wrote that it would be his last entry. He regretted nothing, except not being able to name the creature he was becoming. Demi's letter added another strange layer. She said she expected to wake up haunted by her actions, but instead, she missed the clarity she felt while drunk. In her own words, she stood in one lie and saw through another. This might mean she had been living in self-deception, that she could just drink and forget everything. But while drunk, she might have also glimpsed the truth about what she'd done. I imagine Demi being torn, wanting to stay drunk so she wouldn't have to face reality, yet also wanting to dig into the truth about her brother. In the end, she couldn't decide which was worse. The second theory flips things around. It's Martha who got punished in Demi's fourth letter, not Lucino. The setup is the same. She and Lucino have a heated argument, but this time, the manor's punishment falls on her. Whatever happened was so horrifying that Demi couldn't deal with it and decided to drown it out with alcohol. From here, the events follow almost the same path as the first theory. The big difference is in how this theory connects to Lucino's fourth letter. After seeing Eli fight so hard to change his visions, only for those visions to still come true, Lucino starts to realize something uncomfortable. No matter how much science he knows, there are things it simply can't explain. And for someone like him, that's not just baffling, it's unsettling. He also admits that his time as a human is running out. The transformation into a lizard is almost complete. His only regret? Not being able to name whatever creature he's about to become. Meanwhile, Demi sobers up expecting to be haunted by guilt, but instead, she finds herself missing that strange clarity she had while drunk. In that state, she says she stood in one lie and saw through another. That could mean she used drinking as a way to forget the harsh reality of her life. But being drunk also let her see truths she might not have faced otherwise. If Martha was punished early on, and maybe even eliminated during that event, that would make Demi the last survivor in the game. But here's the thing, we still don't know what actually happened to her. Her letter doesn't explain it. All we have is this weird mix of wanting to seek the truth, yet also wanting to stay in the haze that kept her from feeling the full weight of her reality. So, in short, up to day 3 of the mana game, I still can't say for sure how everything in 6B really played out, but the endings for each participant feel, well, pretty tragic. The exact meaning behind each end is still a mystery, but here's what the clues suggest. Eli most likely didn't make it. He tried to change the fate he saw in his foresight, but no matter what he did, things still ended the same way. Lucino, after realizing that some things just can't be explained by science, wrote his final diary before finally transforming into a mutant lizard. Martha? She met a tragic fate too, but the details are left vague. And then there's Demi. She spent part of the game drunk, and afterwards she kept missing that state over and over again, not because she loved alcohol, but because it let her live in one lie while also seeing through another. That's as far as I can piece together for now. Over time, more clues might pop up that completely break this theory, but for now, this is the general shape of events in 6B. Like I said at the start of the video, 6B is packed with cryptic hints that don't have clear answers, even after I've talked to people who know far more about it than I do. The only thing that seems consistent is that the mana set up a Pinocchio game to test Seer's foresight, something that held true no matter how many variables changed. If you've got your own theory, feel free to throw it in. At the end of the day, I think only God and the developers know what really happened in Game 6B. Thanks for watching. Silmina, signing off.